Hey friend, welcome to the Badass is the New Black podcast, where our motto is done is better than perfect. I'm Chrissy Chin, here on a mission to help you grow your business online, turn your leads into lifelong customers, and scale to six figures and beyond so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more. Most importantly, I'm a laid-back wife, a mom, a friend who started as a peds nurse, turned network marketer, and now a serial entrepreneur. This podcast is for ambitious people with an idea, a vision, but no idea how to get there. On this podcast, I'll give actionable steps to keep you moving forward while you learn new business strategies, better systems and processes, marketing, sales, all the things you need to build and scale a blissful business that keeps your pocketbooks growing. Grab a beverage, open up your notes app, and let's get to it. Let's welcome Ciara Rubin to the podcast. She's a best-selling author, a spiritual teacher, and a singer. She teaches empaths to stop second-guessing themselves and trust their intuition so they can be confident AF leader that they were meant to be. Ciara's first book, You Always Know, 4-Step Guide for Empaths to Stop Second-Guessing and Trust Your Intuition, launched as a #1 bestseller on Amazon, which is so exciting. And when she's not living her homeschool mom life with her 2 beautiful boys or teaching intuition workshops in Atlanta, Ciara loves eating smoothie bowls and going to spiritual events with her friends and obsessing over miniature tiny things. Welcome, Ciara. I'm so excited that you're here on the podcast. I've been shouting you out on podcasts leading up to this, so I feel like people may know you a little bit, but I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here with you.
So Ciara and I go way back. We go back, gosh, I think I got the notification 8 years on our Facebook of the first post we were interacting with each other when I first moved to Atlanta. And like I said, I've talked about her a lot on the podcast because she's always giving me such valuable insight and teaching me really how to tap into my own tuition. And it's been something that I've been personally exploring is learning how to listen to myself, how to tap in. We'll talk about the different ways to tap into your intuitive language. And so I've just been learning a lot more about this topic and finding it incredibly valuable for really every area in my business, but also, or every area in my life, but also for my business and helping me just exactly what you're saying, helping people not second guessing. If you're out there listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I am the second guesser queen. You're always am I doing the right thing? Oh, should I say this? Oh, should I post this? Oh, should I send this email or should I create this offer or what should I do? You're just second guessing everything. And you have just taught me, Ciara, and through your book, I haven't read the whole thing because I'm waiting for book club. But just diving into it, you're just confirming that I have the tools within and I have the power within and I always know if I develop these and learn more about these, then I will always know and I will be able to come up with the answers on my own. So I'm excited to talk about this book, to share some insights with the community listening. And then I'm really excited for book club, which will give you the deets at the end. And you might recognize her face because we did a book launch signing together. So I posted on social. So I'm just excited to have you here to talk about the book, but I'm also excited to have the listeners find out that they're way more intuitive than they actually think they are, or maybe the word intuition, or that is a little bit newer for you. And then I'm excited for you to give them some tools that they can tap into their intuition more. So let's just dive in. And I'm going to have you share just a little bit about your story. You share it in the book, so I know, and we've been friends, so I know, but just your how you found yourself on this spiritual path, and then why you decided to write this book and why you decided now.
Yes. As is most things that people find themselves in that feel purposeful, that feel aligned, a lot of times you don't see it coming, and that was exactly the same story for me. I was in my other life, I did musical theater in high school and college, and then I was bartending after that, and then I took a job at a chamber of commerce and was promoted to director of operations eventually. And so I was just doing all the things in the skirt suits, I was shaking hands with the mayor and doing the ribbon cuttings and planning large scale events and sort of getting my feet wet with public speaking. But it wasn't until a friend of mine invited me to an intuitive fair. And I had never been to anything like that before. I mean, I always had identified as an empath, which to me means somebody who has a really good sense of energy and has a really good sense of people, right? Like when you, for those of you who are listening, when you ask somebody how they're doing and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm great, I'm fine," and you're like, "Yeah,
Hmm.
okay." Um,
I don't think I'm getting the full answer there.
Right, exactly. You just have a sense of that. And I was also like, I loved horoscopes. I loved reading my horoscopes. So that was about the extent of it. But then when a new friend of mine invited me to go to this intuitive fair, I was just open to it. I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Like, I'm from California. Those things are pretty common over there. So a little shocked that they were doing those in the Atlanta area at the time, which was in 2015. But I was into it. So I went with her and sat across from a woman who did aura readings, which is like getting a picture of the colors of basically your energetic body. And I sat down across from her and she asked me a few questions and she said, have you ever had any weird experiences, like paranormal experiences? And I was like, actually, yes. And so talked about a few of those from my childhood. And she just said, like, you can do what I do. You're intuitive. You are going to be like a spiritual teacher and a leader. And I was like, no, no, like,
No, no, no,
I'm
that's not on the plan.
no, no, like I'm checking the boxes. Like I just got engaged to this guy. My parents love him. I have a big girl job that has all these perks. Um, but something deeper inside my gut was like, oh, that sounds kind of exciting. Like that sounds kind of interesting. And good thing that I took the lady a little bit seriously and started exploring my intuition and started to even just open up my mind to the idea that I could be a very intuitive person. Good thing, because going on that journey is what led me to writing my book, is what led me to the two empowered home births of my sons, is what led me to saving my marriage when it was falling apart, when I was, for me, becoming who I really am, but to
Mm,
him becoming someone completely different than the woman
mm,
he married, which is
mm.
understandable. So I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that beginning and for accepting of those things and learning those things, because I feel so much happier than I've ever felt in my entire life.
I love that. I'm so happy for you. And I just want to validate that that's what this really is just learning more about yourself and like the ability to learn more about yourself and deepen those connections. I mean, we talk regularly on just like how I've been exploring more about my intuition and who I am and all of that, and that's deepened my relationship with my husband. And my relationship with my sister, and using the intuition and the messages, whether it's from, God, spirit, sending me, you're like, send me a sign, please send me a sign, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I get this sign. And it's because I have, been talking to you and learning from you, and you've been just opening up and sharing, like, yes, those things that you're hearing, like, pay attention. Those things that you're seeing that you would write off before, pay attention. And I get so many more messages through just the things going on in life, just because of learning from you and knowing from you. So, love all of that. I love your story and how you kind of came into it, because I think for a lot of people, it's like sometimes they were shoved a bit into what they're doing. Maybe they didn't think they would be doing what they're doing at this point in time, but someone had a different path for them. And I'm so grateful that you explored that and are here teaching what you're teaching, because I think it's so powerful.
Well, thank you. And it's, I do want to like touch on a point that you mentioned there about God or the universe or spirit, and be transparent that I didn't really feel a connection to that prior to getting into all of this. I considered myself to just be open and not being able to confirm or deny the existence of something bigger than myself. And the existence of something bigger than myself and acknowledging that, for me, God feels real in my heart, or the universe or spirit or goddess or whatever language really resonates with you, has expanded things for me so much and has made it so much easier to get through the hard things in life and has made things so much more magical on a day-to-day basis, like you're talking about, asking for those signs and then getting those signs. Or a lot of my students will ask for the signs and then they feel like they're not getting the sign, so they want a signier sign.
Right. Did I see that? That was the other day. I was like, okay, if I see two golden retrievers, then by the end of the weekend, then I'm going to do this thing.
Right.
And I didn't see two golden retrievers, but in my living room, this is like a random story. There are two frames that I have hung up right on top of each other next to a mirror, and I have not taken out the pictures in them. And I don't ever acknowledge them, don't ever look at them. And someone was over and they were like, "Oh, who are the dogs?" And there's two, it's a dog and it's the same picture because it's from the same frame company
Yeah.
just hanging there. And so I was like, two identical dogs, but they were labs. And so I was like, is that the answer? Like I said Goldens, but I was picturing two dogs that looked similar. They're labs. They're kind of so I totally feel that. I'm like, okay, like, was that the sign or am I still supposed to be looking for the sign?
Well, to be honest, to answer your random story, it feels like you were on the right track, but didn't have the idea fully formed, which is why you were seeing labs, but not the exact thing you asked for.
Okay, love it. Anyway, let's move on into, do you want to dive into talking more about learning about your language of intuition?
Sure. Yeah, I do. I have 3 tips for you guys today who are listening, and I will list them off really quickly and then dive deeper into them. Tip number 1, you are intuitive. Tip number 2, learn the language of your intuition. And then tip number 3 is the tools. I'm going to give you some tools to be able to get answers from your intuition. So, tip number 1 sounded like silly or a no brainer, but honestly, it's not like being tone deaf. Like, you know how only 3% of people are tone deaf? Some people are tone deaf, some people aren't. That's not a thing when it comes to intuition, okay? You are intuitive. You have the ability to develop your intuition. And I know that, and I know you know that because you already get gut feelings about things. That's usually one of the biggest things that people can identify with is, yes, I do get gut feelings about things. Sometimes you might walk into a room and you just feel like the energy is off, or the person that you're talking to, they seem like everybody around them is really enjoying their company, but you're like, there's something off about this person though. Okay. And
Mhm.
so I know you've experienced that. And so tip number 1 is just to accept and open to the idea that you are an intuitive person. You are an intuitive being, and that intuition is just a muscle. It is certainly a gift, but it's not a gift in the way of it's only something that certain people have. It's a
Mm.
gift in the way of, like I said, it's a muscle that you can build if you just practice it. Okay, so opening to that idea is number 1. And number 2 is learn the language of your intuition. So in my book, I present 4 different languages that your intuition speaks. That's clairsentience, which is clear feeling; clairvoyance, which a lot of people have heard of, which is clear seeing; clairaudience, which is clear hearing; and claircognizance, which is clear knowing. So most of the students that come to me are typically primarily clairsentient, which means that's that empath ability, that's those gut feelings, that's the people who struggle with anxiety or digestion issues maybe in the past. And so those folks are the clairsentients. And then the clairvoyance, a lot of the people that I work with are also clairvoyant as well. And funnily enough, even though clairsentience is a very strong intuitive language that speaks to you through your gut, that speaks to you through your body, a lot of times my students have a hard time actually getting those messages because, in general, we do tend to feel very disconnected from our bodies. We do tend to have a lot of things that we wish were different about our bodies. And so, when you're at war or in a battle with your body like that, it can be very hard to get those signs and to check in with your body to get a sense of what you want to do from your intuition. So, spirit always takes the path of least resistance, which is why a lot of times we go in through the clairvoyance. So, your dreams, what dreams are you having? or the visual signs, the things that you're seeing either in your mind's eye or out in front of you, literally billboard signs or golden retriever pictures or whatever, butterflies, birds,
Mhm.
feathers, pennies on the ground,
Mhm.
hearts that are, made from not usually heart-shaped things. Those types of visual things a lot of times are the easiest way to get into the door to learning the language of your intuition, because we live in a very visually driven world. Seeing is believing, right? Which,
Mhm.
for me, let's reverse that. Believing is seeing, but I totally
Yeah.
get it. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I love the visual stuff because I, used to probably think like, oh, right, like I see, like I close my eyes and I like see things. And I don't think that was ever the case. So I love how you've kind of brought it into reality where, yeah, you might just see things out and about. So Sierra and I were actually we went and got our aura pictures taken the other week by Rhonda. Thank you for inviting me. But at this place, they had a bunch of crystals and there was copper and it was kind of looked like the copper was dripped. And pennies remind us of my dad who passed in 2020. And so whenever we see a penny on the ground, we say, oh, a papa penny, right? And they're made of copper. So I like kind of went past the copper bowl and I was like, oh, those are pretty cool, but like it's copper. Like, what's that really for? And then I read it and it says like that it's good for when you're distant from your family. And I was thinking like, well, like they're in Michigan and I'm here, so like we're kind of far apart like that, but like we're very close. And so I just sort of passed on by because I was like trying to pick ones that I felt really resonated with me. And then one of the other girls that we were with was walking by and she pointed out the copper. And I was like, and I heard copper. So there's that like audio, which you'll get into, but like heard copper. And then I was like, whoop, back to the copper. And I was like, okay, I have to go back there. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'll get a little piece that will remind me of my dad that I can put in my office. So I pick up the first piece and the shape of it looks like a little man. And so that visual of like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. And then I was like, I think I want to get a second one, like two pieces. And so I pick up the next one and it looks like a heart shape. And I wasn't like looking in there. I was just like kind of randomly picked one up and they're really tiny. And so you couldn't really even see the shape when you picked them up. So I have this little man and this little heart and just like visually, like represented like my dad and his love. So it's like, just kind of using those signs of like, oh my gosh, I was drawn back. I heard the copper again, drawn back to it. And now I have these little visuals of it. So that's an example of just seeing something and then just putting, now that I've developed my intuition and leaned into more of this, I can make really cool connections like that and feel connected in some really incredible ways.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love that. I didn't know that story about the when we went to visit
Yes.
the kids. That's so cool. And if you're still having questions, or you're not sure, if you consider yourself to be a visual learner, if you would resonate with the idea of being a visionary or a creative type,
Mhm.
that doesn't necessarily mean visual art, but it could. If you are really good at games like Where's Waldo or Hidden Picture, like you will have this clairvoyant ability and you can develop it. The other two, so clairaudience, like Chrissy was saying, is clear hearing. So if you identify as an auditory learner, if you are you could be a musician, but you also could just be a very avid music listener, somebody who really feels moved emotionally by music. You can receive information via songs on the radio or Spotify. We don't listen to the radio anymore. Um, a song that comes on your Spotify playlist that just really, really hits for what you're going through in the moment. That is clairaudience as well. And then claircognizance can tend to be a little bit more elusive, just because the information comes in so quickly and easily that oftentimes you don't trust it, because we need everything to be hard, right? So and we need to work for it, then it feels
Right.
real. But so that clear cognizance or the clear knowing, those are downloads, things that just come instantly into your awareness. Somebody asks you a question or how you feel about something and you just know. You just know. Or somehow you just know like something's going wrong with somebody that you love in your life, and you call them and they're like, oh my gosh, how did you know I'm going through this, right? That's claircognizance. Or when you think about somebody and then they text you, right? All of those types of things can happen. And claircognizance, if it's your primary sense, most likely you would identify with being somebody who's like very intellectual, somebody who is really interested in symbolism and metaphor, somebody who probably grew up in a very intuitive family. But it tends to be the least common primary intuitive sense for most of my students. Yeah.
And how are you seeing like the people that you're working with? Because we talked a little bit about, I kind of shared that story with my dad. So I actually am feeling a lot more connected to my dad through developing these things. But in terms of business and being able to make decisions, why would someone want to? I mean, we kind of alluded to it at the beginning, but can you elaborate a little bit more on why someone would really want to develop these more, like in relation to their business?
Well, what's coming up as you're asking that today? Sometimes it's different answers, but what's coming up for your audience right now, from my higher self, is it can really help with comparison, because a lot of times we are scrolling in all the places and we see something that somebody else does, and it either triggers us or it inspires us and then compels us to do something about it. We then create something, and maybe that's a good idea, or maybe the way that it ended up working out for them would be the same way that it would end up working out for you. But a lot of times you have your own path as an entrepreneur, and the things that work for somebody else might not work for you. For example, I did that for years and years. I started my first website in September of 2015 and tried out all these different courses, all these different things. And the whole time my intuition was like, write a book, write a book. But I was like, no, 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 I'm not ready for that. Like, this person's doing this and it's successful, and I need to do that before I can do the thing I really want to do. And my intuition just kept saying, write a book, write a book, write a book. And I finally listened, and then it became a number one Amazon bestseller. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah, girl.
that doesn't necessarily mean that writing a book is the thing that you need to do right now. It just means that tapping into your intuition and getting a sense for what you really need to be doing right now, what really lights you up inside, is going to be so much more important and so much more effective than looking around at what other people are doing, or even what a coach is telling you to do,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Because the best coaches, right, they often help you, they lead you to the right answer by asking you questions. They help it come out of you naturally, right?
yeah.
And so, I think that is a really good answer for today about comparison. But obviously it can help in general with just making decisions. If you have two different lead magnets that you want to move forward with, ask your intuition, and then it'll tell you exactly which one you need to do. If you don't know what to charge for your offering, ask your intuition and
Mm.
ask for a sign, and then it will tell you what to do. It's really can be applied to any decision that you're making.
Yeah, I love that. And I love being able to pair intuition with the data and analysis, because a lot when Claire and I launched the business, I was going a lot with my gut feelings, like intuition, without realizing that I was leaning on my intuition and just like, this feels good. And that this, like, I just know that this is the right thing to do and all of that. And then at a certain point in time, it's like, okay, wait, we also have to look at the data to like see what's happening. So I love, and we talk about this often, of being able to use the two together, like look at the data and your intuition and be able to decide, like, the data is telling me this. And so intuitively, now I have more tools in my toolbox to be able to figure out how I want to respond to that data and what the best avenue is going to be. So I really think there's a place for both. So, like, the people who are out there that are very analytical and like very numbers driven, and that's what you rely on and that's what you focus on, I think that's great. And there's space for this intuition, the ability to, tap in deeper to get some more answers, to be able to guide you on that path quicker and
Yeah.
clearer.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. It is really important to temper your intuition with logic and with data and with analysis. Um, but there are some things that your intuition might guide you to do that don't feel logical, like
Mhm.
even starting the business in the first place.
Yeah.
And when you're
Right.
looking,
You're like, this makes no sense. You're
right.
like, do it.
Right, exactly. Or the thing is that your intuition is outside of time, and your intuition has no fear, and your intuition
Mm.
doesn't need to eat. or to sleep. And so it doesn't have that same survival need or the survival instincts that you have in your body, right? And so while it's so and so important to trust your body and look at the data and analyze the data, we also need to be aware that sometimes our emotions can get entangled with when we see the data, right? And that sometimes the data is good. Use your intuition first and then double check with the data.
Mm, I like that. I've actually never heard you describe it like that. Like that it doesn't have their survival instincts, right? So there's not all of this cloudiness, right? Blocking your intuition, just trying to survive, make it through another day. Ah, so powerful. I love all of this. So what are some tools for those that are like now, like, okay, actually, I have been using some of my intuition, right? My whole life a little bit. And like you said, you can develop that even deeper. But what are some tools that you like to share? And I know you talk about this in the book, so y'all get your hands on this book so you can dive into these topics even more. Ciara shares like incredible stories about her journey in there. But what are some of the tools, like a simple tool that we could move forward using just today without knowing anything else?
Yeah, so I for those of you listening who like me, I am also a very analytical person. I am a very logical person. That's who I started out as. This intuition, we're here to teach what we're here to learn, right?
Mhm.
So I want to give you guys 4 tools for each of the clairs, just in case you check in with that first tool and you need a signy or sign. Okay.
Okay,
So
wait, before we dive into tools, will you just touch on we didn't talk about like because when you're going through it, I'm like, "Oh, that's me. Oh, wait. Oh, that one's me. Oh, and that one's me." Did you touch on like what if you're feeling like you're all the Claires?
yes. And so, spoiler alert, you are. You are all of the Claires, right? We love to put ourselves in boxes. We love the Enneagram. We love human design. We love the Myers Briggs. We love astrology because we like to use that as tools to learn more about ourselves. And so, I give you that satisfaction by letting you know, okay, this one is your primary right now. This is how to figure it out. Here's a quiz in the book. And here's your secondary, how you can figure that out. Because once you know your primary and your secondary, it's just going to be easier for you to connect with your intuition and the language that
Mm,
it's speaking.
mm,
But you have all of those clairs. You are all of those things. And the more you start to pay attention and put attention and awareness on your intuition, the more you start to learn the languages and develop your intuition, the more you will experience it holistically. So maybe you're primarily clairsentient with secondary clairvoyance, but as you start developing it, that clairaudience is going to turn on even more. The claircognizance is going to start coming in, and you might even experience it and trust it. It's just like a muscle, right? We all have strongest and weakest muscles in our body, right? And that's individual for each person based on what you've been through. So you are all of them, to answer your
Okay, I
question.
love that. I did get through that part in the book, so I wanted to just touch on that. If as you were describing, people are like, "Oh, that's me. I get gut feelings," or like, "Oh, that's me. Like, I always see these little signs." "Oh, that's me. I like hear songs or whatever." So I loved that in the book, like, going through them, and then we'll share the quiz link with y'all as well at the end of this. It'll be in the show notes and in the description for you to go take the quiz to see what your primary is as well. So let's let you dive into the tools, and then we'll talk a little bit about book club.
Cool. Yeah. So the first tool is going to be checking in with your body, because even though sometimes you can feel disconnected from your body is actually the most powerful barometer. That clairsentience is the most powerful intuitive sense because, and Christy's has heard me say this before, that your mind can be in the past, worrying and ruminating on the past. Your mind can be in the future, worrying about what's to come, but your body is in the present. Your body has no choice but to be in this present moment. And because the present is the most powerful place there is, you've heard this saying before, now is all there is, the power of now. Your body is the most accurate barometer. So I do want to introduce that idea into your head. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to check in with your body. You're going to put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, and you're going to ask yourself some pretty like mundane yes or no questions at first, like what is my name? Is my name blank? And you can say the wrong name first so that you can get what your no is, what your no feels like in your body, and it will be probably a very subtle sensation. So don't be expecting bells and whistles to be going off. The intuition is pretty subtle. So once you get your no, you can then ask yourself a very obvious and mundane yes question, like, is my name blank? Insert your actual name. Take a deep breath, get a sense of what your yes is. It could feel like a relaxation or like an opening in your body. Don't judge it. All right. So that is your first and easiest and actually most powerful way to get a yes or a no. But if you're struggling with that or overthinking that, then we can ask for a sign. You can ask for a visual sign, like we were talking about, whether that's a feather. You can ask for whatever you want. You can get as specific as you want. I want to see a yellow butterfly within 24 hours. It's best the more specific you are. And then the best thing you can do when you're asking for that sign is let it go. It was like Chrissy was saying about the copper. Don't go looking for the piece of copper. Don't go looking for the yellow butterfly. Just go on about your day and let it happen or not happen. So if you do see the yellow butterfly, that's a confirmation that what you were asking about is correct. If you don't see the sign, if you don't see the yellow butterfly, then that is a no. What you are asking about is not necessarily correct. So that's another way. The third way is a song sign. So this is a clairaudient tool that you can use. You can ask for a song that will tell you exactly what you need to know, a song that will give you a yes or a no, a song that will point you in the right direction. And then just wait to see what songs you hear, whether you're in Hobby Lobby or at the grocery store or in your car or wherever. Listen for the song. You can pay attention to the lyrics and what they might mean to you. You can pay attention to what you think about. Maybe it's a song from your childhood that reminded you of something. So that's a really good tool, is getting those song signs, and those are fun too. And then the last one is called automatic writing. So this is a claircognizant tool, and basically what you do is you can write at the top of a journal or a piece of paper, or you can even type it if that's better for you. You can type out your question or what you're asking about, and then you take a moment and you take a breath and you ask your intuition, what do I need to know right now about this question or this thing that I just put at the top here? And then you set a timer. You can do 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and you just write. You don't think, you don't overthink it. And I'm saying that a bunch of times because I know we all overthink everything, right? But just get your mind out of the way as much as you can and just write, see what comes. And if you're having trouble and you're like, I don't know what to write, write that. I don't know what to write. Write that as many times as it takes before something else starts to come through, and then just write until the timer runs out. And you will be amazed at what comes through.
The first time I did that, not intentionally or like knowing, I was at the ULA Palooza in November, and they like talked about a topic, and then they just said, now just write. And I was like, I don't even know what I think about this topic. Like, I don't even know, like, I feel good in this topic. And so, but then I just started writing, and like you said, it was just like magical, the things that came out. Like all of a sudden I just had so much to write, and it started leading down a path I would have never thought that I would have been writing about. But just so much came out. So I'm actually excited. I didn't even think about doing that on the regular, of just like, even if it's something like I have no idea what to do, what to write about. I feel like this, I'm going to do this with my podcast, when I'm like, what should I record a podcast about?
Perfect.
And I'm just gonna start writing, what should I write a podcast about? What should I do a podcast about? I
Yeah,
think it'll
just
be
ask
really, really
yourself,
helpful.
what do they need to hear? What do they need to hear from me? Yeah.
Ooh, okay, I like that. Ooh, I love that. I love those tools. Super easy, really doable. And I'm excited to just, if y'all do those, to come back and share with us, if you feel comfortable, like what experiences that you've had with it. Maybe it unlocked something or gave you clarity. We would love to hear those stories. Ciara, this has been amazing. I want to talk a little bit about book club. Is there anything else that you really feel like you didn't get to hit on, and you're like, the audiences really needs to hear this before I leave?
I don't think so. It feels like a really good like introduction.
Okay, yes, no, I agree. I agree, y'all. So I'm gonna leave the link in the description below this video if you're watching. I'm holding up the book here. Mine doesn't have the Amazon #1 bestseller because I bought it on day one, y'all. But now it has that beautiful gold stamp on it. So we'll leave the link in the description and the show notes. But you're hosting a book club for this book, and it's starting March 25th,
That's
correct?
when the doors will open for you to
Okay.
join, and
Oh,
then
perfect.
it will start it's funny because the doors open the week before Mercury retrograde, and it's so perfect because Mercury retrograde is that time to rewrite, redo, figure things out, work through some stuff, work through any challenges. Challenges often come up during that time. So I'm really, really glad that we're going to be diving in right before Mercury retrograde so that I can be there to hold your hand through it.
Yes, perfect. So we'll have a link below and it'll either be a wait list to get in there or it'll be the link to say get your spot in there. But I'm excited to join the book club because I started reading the book and it's incredibly powerful. But from my understanding, like we're gonna get to like chat with you in this book club. So just the power of being able to read the book, use the workbook to kind of write what's going on or things that come up or questions that we have, and then to be able to tap into you and discuss some of those personal things in this book club, I know is just going to be incredibly powerful and just speed up that growth process or speed up the discovery, right? So you can learn more about yourself quicker. So I'm just really, really excited. Ciara and I are friends, so we get to have these conversations all the time. And y'all, when we're like boxing back and forth and I'm like sharing this thought, and she's like, oh, like I shared this on the podcast about getting strep throat and my throat. And you were like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like the book is coming out. And I was like, oh my gosh, mind blown. Like, what? And then just have been working on that. And you talk about the chakras in here. And so I'm like, okay, I gotta work on my throat chakra. So, like, using the book to dive into that. So, just my conversations are so powerful with you just in those little moments that I'm just excited to be going through the material, really being intentional about learning from this and then being able to bring that to you and the group and have a discussion about it. You'll have heard me also talk about our little sisterhood, gatherings that we've done once a month. And we really just dive into these topics. And I've learned so much about myself in these group settings, just sharing. So I know it's just going to be really magical, really powerful. If you're feeling called to join it, I know it's going to make a huge impact on. I actually feel like I need to say it's not going to be in your business. It's going to be in your personal life that you're going to see huge transformation. And it's like making me emotional about it. So, so I just want to share that out with you. But we'll have the link for the show notes. Is there anything else it's going to be an 8-week book club, right?
Yeah, so it's going to be 8 weeks. There's going to be two options. You can join as a member, and if you're a member of I'm calling it the book circle, you're going to be doing 8 Q&A calls with me live, where you're going to be surrounded by people who are on the same journey as you. And it's always so funny with these things, like when you encounter a book and you pick it up and you feel like, oh, you're really drawn to that, you'll be amazed to see what comes up for you in your life during that time. And you'll be able to
Mm.
share that with me, and I'll be able to coach you through it and help you find those epiphanies for yourself. But yeah, so it'll be 8 weeks Q&A calls, the book and the workbook as a member, or you can go upgrade to VIP, and then you would get 2 one-on-one calls with me where we are actually diving deep into what's coming up for you. And I'm able to help you find answers and achieve an even bigger transformation. You will also have Voxer access to me if you are a VIP. So as things come up throughout the days, like what Chrissy says, when she gets those signs, like please tell me. Like I never get tired of that stuff. So it'll be like having me, your little intuitive, in your back pocket. It'll be so fun.
Oh my God, I love it. So magical, y'all. All right. So the links will be in the show notes, and below this video description. I'm really excited for you, Ciara. Congrats on the book. It's such a big accomplishment. I know the hard work that goes into publishing a book. So I'm just really excited for you and just to see your journey, just where it's going to take you and everyone else that's connected with you. I know you're going to make such a big impact in this world. You already have, serving hundreds of people, and it's just going to be so much greater than that. So I'm really excited. to also have you supporting my community out there because you've just been such a gift to me in my life. So y'all go find Ciara, follow, share with us where the best place is to follow you and connect with you.
Yeah, so Instagram is where I'm the most active. It's just at Ciara, Ciara dot Rubin, Rubin, not quite like the sandwich. So I'm there on Instagram. I am on TikTok for y'all Gen Zers. And then just join in on Instagram and you'll find out about all the things.
Perfect. Love it. Ciara, thank you for coming and hanging out and sharing all of your wisdom. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you got some value out of this episode, I would love some support. And the best way to do that, so I can keep showering you with loads of actionable tips, is to hit that subscribe button. Leave a review or a comment if you're on YouTube, and share this podcast with a friend. And when you share it with a friend on social, please tag me so I can reshare your share in my stories. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out. I appreciate the heck out of you for showing up. And now it's time for you to take imperfect action so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more.